USTEC 100, which of course we have been buying since the beginning of this week. Though we had our buy position taken out yesterday, we had a little bit of sell position, which of course did not last long before another wave of bullish momentum happened here. So let's run through this quickly and see what led to the idea of buying the USTEC 100. But before I go into the details here, I think it will make much sense that I scale up into the daily time frame for us to have an holistic perspective into what is really going on in this market. So we shall be zooming right into the daily time frame. I think it's a daily time frame. Yes, daily time frame. Now on the daily time frame, remember we saw this ascending trend line. We spotted this ascending trend line after connecting the series of higher lows, which buttresses the strength of the buyers in this market. In fact, this bullish momentum has been holding since the beginning of this year. So it's a very simple scenario here. And of course, you know how we use our ascending trend lines in this community. As long as price remains above the ascending trend line, we shall continue to look out for patterns and structures that will support the idea of buying that asset. Now, at the beginning of this week, we noticed this significant character in price action where we saw our price close last week's trading session just right above that ascending trend line. And in fact, the nature of the candle close there was more of signs that buyers are gradually gaining momentum around that area. And of course, what we want to be looking out for in this case scenario is to buy the USTEC 100. And the only scenario that will make us sell is for price action to break down that trend line to the downside, which of course has never happened. Now, to get a better perspective into what is really going on here, we now scale down into the lower time frame to see how participants in this market has been reacting to that ascending trend line to determine what our next line of action will be since the beginning of this week. So at the beginning of the week, we scaled down to the 1 hour time frame where we saw our price started the week here. So this was what we saw. Okay, first of all, we were able to identify a key level on the 4 hours time frame. Remember, so we had this key level here, had the 14,600, and in fact this level had been a major determinant of price action since the month of June of this year, as you will see here. And you can see how this level had been a selling niche at some point before it was broken to the upside here in the month of June. Then we saw how sellers have struggled when time price comes into that zone. We saw signs here in the month of July, and in the last couple of weeks price is back into that area, which also shares a confluence with that ascending trend line. And of course, because of the fact that that level has been a strong memory for buying power, it makes quite a lot of sense to look out for buying opportunity around that area. Now, in addition to what we saw on the 4 hours time frame is this descending trend line, which has been supporting this bearish momentum since the beginning of this month. After connecting the series of lower lows and lower highs, we had this descending trend line marked out. So despite buying the USTEC 100 this week, and considering the fact that price still remains above that major ascending trend line we identified on the daily time frame, we are at a crucial moment here, which is around the $15,000 mark, which we identified during our live session yesterday. And one interesting thing about the $15,000 mark is this: it shares a confluence with that resistant line of that descending trend line. And of course, if we want to be adding more buy position to this trade, we want to see price action break out both the descending trend line, of course giving us a sign that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate the bullish momentum, and of course break out of the $15,000 area to give us signs that this bullish momentum is getting stronger. But what we saw here during the trading sessions yesterday was quite interesting. As soon as price got into that $15,000 level, though we saw some breakout of that structure, and then we saw price come back into that area again. We retest again secondly with selling pressure again. Now, I'm of the opinion that we might likely be seeing some selling opportunities around this area to push price probably back into the ascending trend line to incite the trend continuation, or even breakdown to incite a sell-off, hereby respecting that descending trend line one more time. So to have a better perspective here, we scale down into the 1 hour time frame. So I hope we are following through with what I'm saying here, as this will help us to have a better perspective into what is going on here. So we saw here at the beginning of the week, we saw a range where price was confined within the 14,740, 14,665, giving us a flat range, and of course the breakout of the resistance line is all we needed to have a bullish signal. And in fact, for those who had missed out on this opportunity, the market came back to retest the structure to incite an uptrend continuation. And since then, we have been buying. Remember, we had levels that we used to maximize the potential of this bullish move. We added positions at the breakout of the 14,820. We added more positions at the breakout of the 14,950. And of course, we added more position yesterday at the breakout of the $15,000 mark, which of course never lasted long. And one of the things I said here yesterday is that we should also consider that this breakout here could turn out to be a false breakout. And if that is going to be the case, that price dropping below that structure could welcome selling opportunity if it comes back to retest it, which of course happened, and price moved about 120 pips before the bullish momentum began again. So if you are taking advantage of all of these opportunities we illustrated here, well done to you for being on standby to capitalize on that move. Now, as we head into the New York session today, what is going to be our plans? Are we holding on to a bullish bias here or getting ready to sell the USTEC 100? Now, first of all, I would like to acknowledge that since last week Friday, price action had consistently and uniformly found higher lows in this market. And when we notice higher lows, it is a clear sign that there is a bullish momentum in the market. And what we want to be doing as technical traders is to connect the series of higher lows, which of course will be our yardstick to guide that momentum. So as long as price action remains above that trend line, we shall feel comfortable in our buy position. Now, let me bolden this a little bit to emphasize its importance at this juncture. So at this point in time, this is what we have. Price still remains above our ascending trend line, so we shall continue to look out for buying opportunities in this market. So in that regard, and for those who are profitable and have been part of this journey since the beginning of the week, you can afford to leverage on the profit you have made so far this week to test waters above the $15,000 mark. So a buy stop order around this area for those who are profitable will make quite a lot of sense. However, if you are joining for the first time, that means you are coming in on the trade with a clean slate, then I will suggest that you wait for a breakout and a retest of structure to confirm that buyers will be pushing price to the upside before jumping into the trade. And to give a visual representation of what I'm talking about here, so what I'm saying is a breakout of structure, retest on our lower time frame. It could be your 10, 15 minutes or 5 minutes time frame to look out for buying opportunities to join that uptrend continuation. So as long as price remains above this ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable buying this asset. However, you know how we do it in this community. In as much as we're looking out for buying opportunity and considering the strong bullish momentum that started last week Friday, we cannot ignore the potentials of sellers. Remember how important the $15,000 level is, which I shared with you on the 4 hours time frame. I think let's go through the 4 hours time frame. All right, so look at the 4 hours time frame here. Look at how important that $15,000 mark is. And even considering the fact that it's a very strong psychological level, considering the round figure of that price, whatever happens here is likely going to be a major determinant of where price action will be going. Now, look at how this level has been respected since the beginning of this month. It was a buying niche at some point here. We saw buyers negate sellers attempt here. And of course, we saw buy pressure during the previous week before it was finally broken to the downside. And we all know that whenever price breaks down a structure like this, we expect at some point in time, there are chances that price could come back, retest that structure to incite a sell-off to the downside. Now, if we look at what has been going on here in the last 24 hours, price action is back into that $15,000 area. So we saw the first touch here. Look at it right here. Price dropped down. Now we are seeing the second touch, and it appears selling pressure begin again around this area, and buyers are finding it difficult to maintain that momentum as we are yet to find a new high since price action broke out of the $15,000 mark. And in fact, with this kind of scenario, we cannot ignore the potential of a reversal pattern here, which could come in the form of a double top structure. Now, if I take into consideration this impulsive move, we saw the first touch, price dropped into the 14,900. Price came back again, and the inability of price action to break out of the previous high is a good sign that we might likely be seeing a reversal pattern in the form of a double top structure. Now, you know how we do it in this community. When we begin to see the potential transition of price action into a reversal pattern, like a double top structure like this, the next thing we want to be doing is to identify the neckline, which we shall be using to guide our trading activity. So let me bring up my line chart so that we can have specific points of connection. So we have, let's use the 14,900, which looks quite promising. So we want to be marking out this level on our chart, 14,900 level, all right, which will also be serving as a potential neckline if price action goes on to break down that structure. And in fact, if it breaks down that structure, then it's going to be a good signal that price is about to respect that descending trend line we spotted on the 4 hours time frame to incite another wave of bearish momentum, where depending on how price reacts to this demand zone here will determine if we are going to be adding more sell position. As a breakdown of that structure will welcome more selling opportunities. So let's see how this is going to play out in the next 24 hours here. Will price action drop into the 14,900 to confirm that reversal pattern to join a bearish momentum to the downside? Now, if we look at where price action is right now, it's around this area, that is the 14,985, compared to the neckline area that's about 90 pips approximately. So are we going to wait for the whole 90 pips to run through before we can join the sell momentum? Well, I want to look out for ways through which we can maximize the potential of this bearish move by joining early enough, even before the breakdown of the neckline happens. Now, to do that, we want to scale back down into the 1 hour time frame. Let me allow this to show itself on the 1 hour time frame as well. So we go into the 1 hour time frame here. Now, here we go. So I would like to zoom in so that we can see things clearly. So we begin to see some selling pressure resume, and in fact I would like to join that bearish momentum even before the breakdown of this neckline happens so that I can maximize and even have more position on the sell move. So to do this, what I will be doing here is to wait for the breakdown of that ascending trend line to happen. Remember that ascending trend line is our yardstick to guide trading activity, and as long as price remains above the trend line, we hold on to a bullish bias. But if price breaks down the trend line, then we have no other choice than to get ready to sell. Now, if we are going to be selling, first of all, I want to have a sell stop order for those who are profitable, of course. We can leverage on the profit we have made to test waters around here. That is why. So we can wait for a breakdown of the 14,950 to join a selling opportunities. But for those who are joining for the first time, that is, you are not profitable yet, then you want to wait for breakdown retest of structure before joining. breakdown retest, you need confirmations before joining. So that is how I'm going to be joining any selling opportunities here. So for sellers, we are positioning ourselves anywhere below both the ascending trend line at the 14,950. So if we can sell early enough, then when price breaks down the 14,900, which happens to be the neckline of the reversal pattern we identified on the 4 hours time frame, then we already have two positions running had the time price breaks down the neckline at the 14,900. So we can move the stop loss for the sell position we took at the breakdown of the ascending trend line to break even to the 14,900, so that we allow this one to run through, hereby maximizing the potential of the bearish move. And remember that we also have levels such as the 14,820, where we can also add more position if price action continues to drop to the downside. And we also have the 14,740, which of course shares a confluence with that ascending trend line we identified on the daily time frame. Now, depending on how price reacts to this 14,740 will guide us to either add more sell position to our existing trade or get ready to join another wave of bullish momentum. So let's mark these levels out, as we will be using them to guide our independent trading decisions for today. So if you have any questions whatsoever as regards to this current setup, feel free to let me know in the comment section.